Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jean Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And I'm here with Denise Stegall. Hey, Denise.
Hi, Jean. How are you?
I am great today. How are you?
I am awesome today. And I want to be able to say that I am awesome all the way down the road when I hit 100. So that's what
Well,
we kind of want to talk to about
that's
today
it.
is
Because today's title is, I want to say it.
go
Today's
for it.
title. But before I do that, Denise Stegall is our longevity specialist, and we're going to be talking about longevity. But today's title is putting your pants on later in life.
And yes, you can.
So, what is putting your pants on? Why is putting your pants on later in life so important? Because it is
Um,
huge. It's funny, but it is really important.
exactly. We're making light of it because at this stage in life, we're both still able to put our pants on. But why this is important, these are things that we don't think of. When we think of longevity, we think of, diet and an exercise, and we have this kind of idea what that might look like. We forget about some of the little things that can actually affect how you do live through the decades. And if you have no balance, if you think about it, we were just talking off camera. You recently had hip surgery, and so just even after that, putting your pants on is a bit of a challenge. But you are in good health. You have strong muscle and bone. And for people who don't think about, longevity, we don't think about osteoporosis. We don't think about balance when we think about longevity. We really just kind of focus on diet and nutrition and working out. But there's so many other pieces to what makes that long life one that's lived better and enjoyed at the best in the best possible way.
Yeah, and it is kind of a funny thing to say, putting your pants on, but the visual that I want everybody to realize that we're talking about is it's not sitting in a chair putting them on. It is, can you actually physically stand up and put one leg in at a time and not topple over? And how important that is. Can you put your shoe on standing up? Or do you have to sit down to put your shoes on? And if you're at that point where, well, I can't do it, it's not the end all of everything.
It's a wake-up call. That
Yes.
is a wake-up call that says, I can't do this. I used to be able to do this a year ago, 5 years ago. That's the time, at this stage, if that's where you are, that's your wake-up call to do something and make changes. So and that's essential, is to seek the support and the help in order to get back to that point. But what if we never get to that point to begin with? And this is kind of something that I've been thinking about a little bit more and more. It's almost like, are you playing not to lose or playing to win? Are you living your life not to be sick, or are you living your life in a way to be healthy and vibrant and independent throughout your life?
And active.
And, and active, exactly. Very different mindset, yes?
Oh, without a doubt, because you can eat well and be very sedentary. And then what I noticed for me, when you turn the age when something starts with a 6, like, first of all, how the hell did that happen? and secondly, it is that realization, you see people, and especially with social media, and well, a lot of my social media, there's a bunch of hiking groups, and there are older people that are extremely active. But then when you think about, well, what were they doing at this age? And what did they do over time in order to maintain that? And you realize what I'm going to do right now is going to affect what I'm going to be able to do when I'm 80.
Absolutely.
And
Most people are
that was a
looking
wake
at,
up call for me.
yes, and most people are at 40 and 50, going, it's so far down the road,
I didn't
and
even
they're
think about
not
it.
thinking about it. They're not, it's not even in their wheelhouse, in their brain. And we need to change that, because what happens otherwise is we end up taking a lot of over-the-counter medications. We take a lot of Advil or Tylenol, and they're great for, quick pain relief, but it's not something you want to be taking on a regular basis. Right. So that's where it starts. It's the aches and the pains. And so we start taking medication. Oh, it hurts when I do this. So we don't do these things. We're not as active as we actually could be if we were doing the right activities and really paying attention. And sometimes, when you have an ache or a pain, when that starts, that again, that's kind of like your wake up call. Your body is telling you something's not quite right. And maybe it's, maybe you're overweight, maybe your shoes aren't, you're hiking, but you're hiking in sneakers, in running shoes.
Mhm.
I see people doing that all the time.
Mhm.
Or actually what I see people doing a lot nowadays is like on vacation, and everywhere they go, they're in a flip-flop.
Right.
Flip-flops,
Because there's a
everybody,
lot of support in that.
they're for the pool, the beach, and the shower when you're, when you're in college, in high school. Okay, that's what the flip-flop is for. Right? Proper footwear is important when it comes to the way you walk, your gait, your stride. I mean, even the way your toes, kind of grip it at flip-flops. You can't walk normal like that. Podiatrists love the flip-flop. It's making them a bomb. But, again, these are things that people aren't even thinking of, but these are things that can affect them long term. If you're walking around in flip-flops, every day now, how are you possibly going to be, hiking up a hill? I have a little hill up here. How are you going to be walking up that hill when you're 60 if your feet hurt and, you've had bunions and all these things that have happened that are not normal? People say, oh, it just comes with age. It's not completely true.
One of the things that I had to get my head wrapped around is the commitment. And so when I started this, through time, been riding my bicycle a lot, and that commitment of riding, and then the season changes, and then there's some inactivity and you have to recommit again. And then the guilt that comes around with, it's such a head case, the guilt that comes around when you're off season and you're not doing anything, and then restarting. And so I really had to wrap my head around the commitment of building muscle. At this point, I don't have a choice. I have to continually do this. And so finding an outlet for me was really very important. And I'm incredibly fortunate that there happens to be, when people say CrossFit, you think that they're throwing tires, and that's not true. I had
Sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is. Well, okay, sometimes it is, but they're not expecting that on day one, right? So both of my kids have been doing CrossFit for years. I'm like, I don't do it. So the local CrossFit gym has a class for people that are 60 and older. I'm the youngest person in the class.
That is amazing.
The oldest person in the class is just wonderful Annie, and she's 94 years old. The doctors told her a few years ago that she would never reach her hands over her head. And Annie can take a dumbbell and she can press it above her head. It's the most incredible thing, because the doctors said it doesn't mean it's actually true, but it took commitment and hard work, and Annie shows up every day. Does Annie do the same workout that everybody else does? No, it's modified. So everybody's workout is modified. And I commend Cinnamon every time. She's the coach and the owner of the place. And she, with the group, sometimes when all 10 or 12 of us are there, she's got 4 or 5 different programs going at once. But the activity that happens is setting people up for the ability to get off the floor if you fall.
Right. Absolutely. And I think the activity piece, as so many times people will say, oh, well, I walk. Yeah, well, you were born, you crawled, and then you walked. So what? You've been walking since you were a baby. Walking is great, but it's not your have all be all. You're not gaining muscle by walking. Now, you're not losing a ton either. However, starting at age 35, we start, especially women, we start to lose muscle mass.
Mhm.
If you're constantly losing muscle mass and you're not doing anything to build it, what happens? You
Mhm.
have no muscle. If you have no muscle, there's nothing to, obviously you can't lift things, you can't bend. There's nothing to keep your bones strong and actually keep you in a optimal healthy situation.
Mhm. And
Like
the
and we all
osteoporosis.
know somebody like that.
Mhm.
They kind of look like they look, they look kind of like the Pillsbury Doughboy. They're a little doughy. Um, and we go through phases like that, right? But the people who actually wake up and say, you know what, I need to do something. The people who get doughy end up with osteoporosis. They end up with, the bend, where that, where they're walking and they can't stand up straight because maybe it's there's some muscular, there's some skeletal issue there, but there's no muscle to hold the skeleton in place. The skeleton doesn't stand on its own. That's what it's got the muscles for. And think about just everyday movement. You mentioned before, bending down to tie your shoes.
Mhm.
Now there are companies going back to footwear that, and that's why flip-flops are easy. I get that. But there are, shoe companies now that are touting this, oh, just, these slip-in shoes, which may be good because you can still stand. So that may be a good thing. The challenge that I'm finding though, when I see these, and I have a mother who's 82 years old, um, the support, and that's another thing,
Mhm.
the support shoes get these slip-on shoes, not necessarily as supportive as somebody who's aging needs. We're all aging. None of us are getting younger, right? So yes, we actually need to pay attention when you go to CrossFit, you wear proper attire, right? For CrossFit. You're not going in your walking shoes,
Mm.
right? So all of these pieces, again, it's not just about diet. It's not just about the exercise. It is about the mindfulness piece. As you mentioned, it's about the mindfulness piece and really getting to understand what that commitment is. The commitment to your own health, the commitment to your own longevity, vitality, and energy. Um, my goal is for people is to keep them out of the doctor's office.
Mhm.
If we can avoid the medications and going to the doctor's office, think about how many people who are older, who the last 5 years of their life, all they do are going back and forth to doctor's appointments. What did they do 20 years ago?
Mhm.
We don't want to be them. We want to be the person in 20 years from now. We want to be like your 94-year-old friend, Anna.
Annie.
Anna?
Annie.
Annie. So the goal here, we joked earlier about putting your pants on as you get older. How many people, I want to know, how many people can actually stand on one foot and have the balance? And this is today. I'm not talking about the 84-year-old. I'm talking about me at 53 and you at 60.
Mhm.
Some number starting with 60. We can do it. Well, that's why we're here. We talk about it. We know we can do it. How
Right.
many other people do we know who cannot? And if you're listening, if you're somebody who's listening, I want you to do this right now. Stand up if you're sitting, walk around if you've been sitting all day. But literally, I want you to stand on one foot and just pick your foot up just slowly. See if you can raise then, if you can, see if you can raise your knee to a 90-degree angle and see if you still have balance.
Mhm.
Because when you're putting on your pants, basically that's what you're doing. If you're struggling to do that now, let's work on that.
And do it more.
And do it more.
Thank you, Denise. This is really important, and we could probably talk about this for the next 45 minutes, but here's a quick segment. And if anybody would like to get some more information and really dive into this, reach out to Denise, and she's more than happy to have that personalized conversation with you. Hello, everyone. This is Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she She gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter? How does that apply to me? How do I change? What do I need to do? How do I even create a healthy living shopping list? Make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com. Hello and welcome. I'm Jean Gallagher with Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And thank you so much for listening. I'm really excited to introduce Moni Singh. Hi, Moni. How are you?
Hi, Jean. So good to be here.
Oh, it's really great to be talking with you as well, and I'm looking forward to the conversation. Before we dive in, give us a little bit about your bio, and then we'll get started.
Sounds wonderful, Jean, and thank you so much for having me here. For me, I just, in a couple of nouns, right? I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an engineer, I am a mother, an author. Maybe that's all. So for me,
No,
really, it
that's
comes.
all? Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
I think I love how you describe yourself as a curiosity seeker, right? For me, also, it has been all about just learning, growing, figuring things out. I mean, you can't be static. So for me, the journey has been just like that, constant learning.
And so you started as an engineer, and we're going to dive into that just a little bit. And what are you currently doing now?
Yeah, so my life started as an engineer in corporate world, and then I moved into education space. And now I'm the founder of STEM for Kids. So we have this educational platform that's available globally. We help educators, teachers get into more hands-on learning with their students. And all along that pathway, I feel like there's so much I've learned, gone through lots of ups and many downs. I think it's more downs than ups, and I think that those downs, those dips teach you a lot. And I think
Yes,
that's what just kind of keeps things going for me, really.
that is the entrepreneurial roller coaster for sure. Just when you think it's going good, all of a sudden you're at the peak of that roller coaster, and I like
Shadows come, shadows down.
I like to call it the rebound rate. So how quickly are you able to get out of that dip and recover? For me, I found that I made that transition from corporate to being an entrepreneur as a financial advisor, and my recovery rate or my rebound rate in the beginning was really very slow. Pretty much like I threw my pen across the room and I'm like, oh, I'm never going to do this damn thing again. But as time goes on and you become tougher and you really dig down to your why are you really here, it helps that rebound part.
Absolutely, and I like the way you talk about how fast you can recover. I think that really is a lot, very important. I think one of the things that we have been doing even with STEM for Kids, the curriculum, even though we focus a lot on the science, engineering, mathematics, those kinds of topic, technology, but we also wrap it around with all these other skills, life skills that you need, right? So whether it's talking about resilience, dealing with
Mhm.
failures, and then also being able to talk with others, communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity. So wrapping it all around so it becomes more of that inclusive feel. So translating not just the learnings, the hard skills that of course you need for your career, but also how do you cope with the world itself. And
Mhm.
so yeah.
So as an engineer, what did you do and how did you end up in education?
Yeah, great question. So for me, I'm going to take a little step back, right? So I
Mm,
grew up, I was born in a community in India where women hardly could, basically we went to school only to the point where you can get to marriageable age and then you marry and then you kind of take care of your family. So that's the way most of my cousins and everybody else. My parents were a little bit different and they said, you know what? Education is important. So I was able to educate myself to my heart's content, thankfully. And
mm,
so here I am. And engineering, by the way, was something not for women at all. And I had going into that field, there were lots of struggles just figuring out because women don't go to engineering schools. I mean, it was really bad in those days, at least. Things have changed quite a bit, so that's great. So anyhow, I became a computer science engineer, and as a software engineer, I made I made phones wireless. So you remember back in those days when the phones used to be tethered to the wall? So I was
Yes.
part of kind of getting them to become wireless. After that, there were satellite telephones. They were big, bulky phones, but I was part of the satellite telephony, and then getting data to our homes, getting data to our schools and businesses, all that stuff. So I was part of all of that. It was super exciting. And then around that time is when I said, you know what, I have to switch a little bit. Did my MBA, actually went to Duke here, and changed trajectory, became manager. And back then it's all about, hey, I have to grow. My title needs to keep growing, right? So you kind of began with software engineer, then senior software engineer, and then I'm on a different trajectory. I become manager, senior manager, director, senior. Like, okay, it's kind of going, but then I felt like there's something still missing in this whole equation, right? You can do a lot of different things. Title growth is fine. I mean, you're growing, you're learning a lot as well. Um, and it just at some point in time I realized that this is not the right happiness I'm looking for. It's not giving me the satisfaction, even though I'm learning a lot. And that's when I started again kind of thinking about, okay, what is it that I'm missing? So it's something, and that pushed me back into maybe my early childhood times, right? It was all about education, 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 because I
Mhm.
had seen myself in my own life that once you educate, there's so many different things that you can do, not just impacting your own life, but also people around you. And maybe there's that part of me which got me back into education. My little kids used to get so, I mean, I used to go to so many factories. In a last part of my corporate career, I was actually in supply chain operations. So I would actually go visit factories all around the world to look at, whether those suppliers are good for our companies or not, things like that. And I would look at these robotic arms kind of spinning at parts, like, and I would take those pictures, little video clippings. I'll show it to my kids. They were 6 and 7 years old, I think, very little at that point in time. And they used to get so energized. And I used to feel like so good too, like almost a kid in a candy store, right? I felt like this is my place, really. All this new stuff. So yeah, I think that kind of there was that, and there's some other elements, but kind of those got me, into education space.
Was it really, what was it like to come to that moment where you realize that your career and everything that you worked so hard for to climb up the ladder of the corporate world, because that's what it seemed like you were supposed to do, was there a realization at some point in time that you spoke about it quickly, but I wanted to dive into it a little bit more because I know that people that are listening or that have gone through similar situations or thinking about that, when you go, this is what I've really attained for, but there's this quality
Yeah.
of life or something that's missing. Was that really difficult to realize, but then also difficult to take action on?
Yeah, yeah. So it's both those things. So I think going back to realization, right? I'll tell
Mhm.
a quick story if that's okay.
Yes,
So
please.
this was again during during my supply chain days. I had a wonderful opportunity of going to Israel to
Mhm.
meet with one of the suppliers there. Beautiful place. And so I was actually, so this is, like a little bit of geography, right? So you have Israel, you have Jordan. In between, you have Jordan River that kind of flows through. So we were like going, of course, I was doing all the things. And then we also had some time built in just to look at different places. So I had an opportunity to go to the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea basically, Jordan River flows in, it goes to Sea of Galilee, flows out, and then goes into Dead Sea. So it's the same Jordan River that kind of goes up and down. So I was in the Dead Sea, floating on the Dead Sea, and it's my engineering mind at night time, right? It's like super like stoked because you are literally just bobbing up and down like a cork, right? And
Mhm.
you're floating, and I'm not a swimmer, but I could of course float so easily. And I'm thinking, okay, it's high salt content, high densities. Of course, I have lots of buoyancy, and I'm struggling to put my feet down. I can't, it just bounces back up. So it was crazy. And just a day before, I was actually up north in the Sea of Galilee. So actually around there, they catch fresh fish, and I was eating that. But alas, when you look at the Dead Sea, there's nothing survives. Nothing survives. The water is so salted within 10 minutes. My lips were super like bad tingling, just the kind you
Mm.
get when you eat a big salty bag of popcorn, but 10x that. So it was really
Wow.
bad. But my mind was just thinking, and I think I came back from that, and I had this profound question kind of going in my head. why is that the same water that's going into Sea of Galilee up north? Life can thrive there, but then you go down south in Dead Sea, nothing survives. What is wrong? Like, it's the same water, then what's going on? And so I had some more in-depth conversations with myself about that, and I realized, in any kind of environment you're in, there has to be inflow and outflow. So in Sea of
Mhm.
Galilee, water is coming in, water is coming out. But when water reaches Dead Sea, there's no outflow. Nothing comes out of the Dead Sea.
Mm.
And so what happens is they're so rich in minerals that nothing can survive. And that's when I said, you know what, when it comes down to even your personal lives, your professional accomplishment, there has to be something not just coming in, but also going out. And that's when I
Wow.
thought that, doing all that I was doing for creating shareholder value, it's great, it's fine, but it was not cutting it for me. And there was more I needed to do. So that's where I started. Then I started to volunteer in the community a lot more. I became the chairman of our Wake County, which is one of the biggest counties here in North Carolina. I chaired the Commission for Women, and I was working with different organizations, organizations like victims of domestic violence and all those different things. And you start to get a different perspective in life, right? And
Mm.
that actually, that coupled with, of course, my curious mind about science and technology, finally gave me that pathway that, okay, you know what, I have to go on a different path, which creates more impact, more social. So that's my STEM for Kids basically is a social entrepreneurial venture. It allowed me to really magnify that impact and take it to a lot more people, right? Whether it's children, their educators, because we trained educators, and being able to impact so many communities. So I think that was one of the missing elements, right? So I feel like my life has been about just this pursuit of happiness, right? And initially, I used to think it's more about just learning and growing. But then I said, no, it's also impact. How many lives are we able to touch? And I
Mm.
think that was the biggest element. Now, the second question you asked was, how hard is it to get out of it once you realize, right? And for me, actually, a destiny, I would say, because I lost that last job and I was laid off. So of course you immediately have like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do, right? That kind of feeling, you get that. But in the matter, I lost the job, and in 10 days I founded STEM for Kids. So in the beginning it was
Wow.
more about, let me do something while I'm looking for my next job. That's why I started it. And I
Mhm.
kept looking for another job, but in 2 months I said, this is it. So I lucked out, I would say, even though it was a you feel like a tragic ending, but I lucked out. But it's really hard because you have almost that those shackles, right? You handcuff.
Mhm.
You can't
Mhm.
release, you can't let go of that job that's giving you, it's coming to you and things like that. So it's hard. And I talk with so many people who want to get into entrepreneurship because we have franchises and that's the hardest. You have to kind of break that barrier that you have in your own mind and say, you know what, I want to let it go and move on.
What I also hear too is that there you experienced a ton of bravery through your education in India. And in the bravery of starting a new company as well, especially, it's easier to get a job. It's just easier to get a job. It's hard to find a job, but the transition from, yes, you've been laid off and now you emotionally going through that process of nobody loves me anymore. And but the action of getting a job is takes less, it's easier. The but changing everything, that takes a ton of bravery and determination that you showed during your education process.
I think so, because I think the growing up part, when you're doing things which normally girls don't do, and my parents were really very empowering in that regard, right? They would keep saying, "Moni, you're a girl." People around you, even your relatives, will say there are things you can do, you cannot do, but remember, you can do anything that you want to, right? So I think there was that empowering mindset that I grew with. Maybe that helped me a lot. And that's one
Mhm.
thing I realized when I was working with as the chairman, the Commission for Women, that many people, there's so many people who are intelligent people out there, right? But and they put a lot of effort, but it's that opportunity they lack sometimes because of sometimes these mindset, right? They feel stuck. And and that, I think it's very profound when you are actually in that situation where you can be like Jordan River that's flowing in, and there is inflow and outflow, right? You can kind of do that and balance it out.
I love that analogy, and I've honestly never thought of that before, but it is so evident that when you are on a project or you're doing something that is serving a purpose, how it's affecting other people on the other side is so important.
Yeah.
So tell us about STEM for Kids. What is that? And how did it come about? And how has it changed? And what has it developed into?
So STEM for Kids has been all about just impact, right? I mean, when I so basically what STEM for Kids does is it provides resources for educators. We train teachers, people who want to get into education business, and we train them on how to get into a business, how to do activities in science and engineering, different kinds of curriculum. We have developed lots of different curriculum, like this one actually is aerospace engineering, but basically all kinds of engineering programming, whether it's aerospace, mechanical, computer programming, artificial intelligence, you name it, like all different things, but basically bringing it in a very hands-on way so children can really like manipulate things, right, as opposed to very theoretical. Like when I look back to my school experience and I talked with so many parents, they say the same thing. Learning has been so theoretical, we didn't really enjoy that part, so we make it very hands-on. Children are always like experimenting, they're building something, they're creating, so they're engaged all across. So that's the kind of model we created, and this was 12 years ago. uh,
Mm,
Back in those days there was no like we did not see too many hands-on activities going on at all. There were not many enrichment programs outside for children. Like you could find swimming classes, you could find soccer and all those things, but nothing around these robotics or engineering kind of programs. So it was trying to build that up, because I knew that this is something we need to start getting into children, getting them engaged with these fields and these topics very early on. So it was a little bit of a battle too, because again you were kind of changing things a certain way. But it's great. I mean, looking at 12 years now, I mean, if you look now, many of the schools, so many school districts have adopted STEM, they kind of embraced it, and so it's
mhm.
wonderful that way. For me personally, just the impact when I look at um, there was this middle school girl. Her name is Essence, and she was doing one of her computer science programs. And after completing the program, in the end, she came to me and said, "You know what? I never enjoyed science before, but now I'm enjoying science, and my grades are improving." I'm like, you know what? This is the essence
Wow.
of what we do. So and then we had an educator. She was already teaching, and she wanted to get into her own business. She came on board within 3 years. She was able to grow her business up in Wisconsin area, Illinois, Wisconsin area, to 25 locations, 27 staff, and
Wow.
whatnot. Inspiring children. She felt like she was being so impactful being an educator, but in a different setting now. So it's
Mm,
stories like that. We had a company, think about company like Boeing, right? They found a way to impact children when they partnered with one of our franchisee in Dubai, and creating more social responsible on the world. So we had like different kinds of impact in different ways, but at the end of the day, it's about impacting as many children as we can through these educators, the teachers and people who want to do this in their communities.
wow. And so you mentioned Dubai, so you are global
Yes, we're in multiple countries around the globe.
and multiple countries, multiple languages.
We offer our programs are in English, but of course,
Mhm.
I mean, like our franchise in Ethiopia, they use our English instructions, but then they are providing sometimes the lessons in Amharic in their own local dialect. So yeah, I mean, we are in different parts of the world, and basically whatever works in that community, because we have local people who become the business owners, so they can take that and kind of do it in their own dialects.
Oh, that's fascinating. Fascinating. And so you're working through schools, but also with organizations as well.
Yeah, so we work with schools where we train teachers directly in terms of how to do this in the school setting, and then we also work with, if you think about the enrichment businesses out there who provide after school programs or summer camps. So we also get work with those people who actually want to set up a business like that local in their own communities. So we help them create their own businesses using STEM for Kids methodology.
Interesting. What about do you have anything for the homeschool environment as well? Or how would
Absolutely.
that work?
Yeah, same thing like teachers, because when we, when somebody says we want to work with children, and so we provide
Mhm.
them the lessons, we provide them the training so that they are able to take all these programs into to whatever setting they're in.
So
We actually have
fantastic
some
and so
scholarships.
needed.
We have some
Mhm.
scholarships going on actually for educators and teachers. So whether they're homeschool, that if your audience is interested, we can definitely pass that along. We announced those scholarships, and it's open for the first 10,000 educators
Wow.
worldwide.
Wow, fantastic. And so what type, you mentioned a couple of subjects, so can we dive into that just a little bit more? What types of subjects or content are you offering?
Absolutely. So, STEM basically is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, right? Students learn science and mathematics in their school already. So we don't teach science, but what we do is we kind of bring these concepts together in a real world setting. So we'll talk about things like, okay, if you are a mechanical, if you look at mechanical things around us, right? You have a car that's able to go out on the road. What principles go around building a car, right? How does it move? So we take those science concepts and we apply them into real world settings. So we've come up with programs like in different engineering fields. So we have aerospace, which is all about how do rockets and airplanes work. We have mechanical engineering, we have biomedical engineering that gets into human body, and like prosthetic development. And of course we are dealing with children who are elementary, middle school level. So we deal with, these are simpler materials. We are trying to bring all these complex topic more at the child's level so they can understand. They're
Mhm.
still kind of understanding those concepts, but in a simpler way, right? Something that they can engage with, and they can work their mental muscles to understand, okay, these are all like creations and how you can work through that. We have topics in environmental engineering. We have robotics, computer programming. We have some hard skills that children can actually learn, different kinds of coding languages. They learn it, they can put it on their resume. Artificial intelligence, different computer programming things like game making. They can make games, they can make applications, different apps. Entrepreneurship, we have courses on entrepreneurship, so they can learn about how to be a marketer, how to message their uh, uh, products and things like that. So it's a wide array of products in terms of curriculum that educators, homeschoolers, they can bring to their communities.
This is so needed from a couple of different aspects. And so the energy that your program brings must bring to teachers, because it is exciting to see these kids learn and learn outside of what would be considered the normal curriculum,
Yeah,
and
and I think the
expand on that as well.
Absolutely. And I think one of the other things that we've noticed, so 12 years ago, we had the discussion around, is it even needed, right? Is it even needed for children at
Mhm.
this age? Now, at least we have crossed that bridge. But now what has happened is the teachers are now expected to provide this, but they don't have the resources. They don't even know how to begin, what to do, because the world of STEM is kind of moving so fast, right? Think about just how phones, how quickly they've evolved, and everything is changing. So our focus has shifted to, let's help the teachers, because there's so much scrambling going on, right? Yesterday the most important thing to be taught in schools was maybe let's learn about how to make a website, but today it's about artificial intelligence. Now what do I do with that? So we're trying to bring it to that level where teachers have resources and they can say, okay, you know what, I don't have to keep chasing what's happening in this world of STEM. I can keep doing what I do best, which is teaching. And so we provide them all these lessons which are already curated, kind of structured and ready to go for them, and train them in that.
That's fantastic. And that alleviates the pressure of learning a new field before you can teach the new field, as
Exactly.
well as the resources in order to do that. But the material being focused on that age group, they're not trying to disseminate, here's this AI concept and how do I put this into a terms and knowledge level for an elementary or middle school student. You're doing all of the hard lifting
Exactly.
and giving them the tools and the lesson plans and the material in order to deliver the message appropriately.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's correct.
It, all I'm thinking is, how do I get this in front of my 10-year-old grandson? Well, technically he's 9. Another few months will be 10, but he might as well be 10. But I'm thinking, how could, that's my first thought. Selfishly, how do I expose him to these wonderful things? Because there's so much out there for kids to know. And the school systems are so stuck in the methods that they've been using, and there's not a lot of money coming into the school system for additional things. Some schools aren't even thinking about STEM and how important it is. And just to being able, so there's two things that are kind of in my head right now. So first of all is our school system in the United States and how that functions, and being able to integrate fresh material with excitement. But also from what you've mentioned, because you mentioned Ethiopia, you're reaching all types of people through your program. Is that correct?
Absolutely, like really inspiring all diverse, the inclusivity with all kinds of different people. Absolutely, because that is so critical, right?
Mhm.
And so yeah, we do that. I mean, in terms of schools, right? Of course, anything that's big, it takes time to make changes, and that's where I see there are so many teachers who come with this entrepreneurial mindset, and they are
Mm.
so eager and willing to say, you know what, I want to change my classroom, and that's where I think biggest thing is if you are ready to make a change, here help is on the way. That's the approach we take. Of
Mhm.
course, sometimes school districts make a decision at their level and say, okay, let's go, let's do these programs, and we have trained at the district level. But many times it's that one teacher, one homeschool
Mm.
teacher, or maybe that one person who's ready to make a change in their own life, in their community. They say, I'm going to create a new social, entrepreneurial venture. Those they start to come in and they create that change, a massive change.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And so if a teacher's listening and they're saying, well, how do I do this for my classroom? What is the process?
Very simple. I'll so a website, and I'll provide that to you. But it's
Mhm.
teach4d.stemforkids.net. If you just go there, you'll see just get started there. We are here. We'll help you out. I'll also provide you the link for just the scholarships. We are doing scholarships right now
Okay.
for teachers. That makes it even super affordable just to get things going and not have to worry too much about anything else. Just focus on get those children, impact them right now before they get too old.
And the same process would be for groups or organizations, or maybe groups of homeschool groups to
Yeah,
apply through the
absolutely.
website as well.
Yeah, that one website I mentioned that they will ask just a couple of questions to get to see which direction they want to go, and then based on that they will be taken in the right pathways.
Yeah, we'll definitely
And
put the
then
websites and that information in the show notes without a doubt. Yeah.
absolutely, and I'm blessed with a wonderful team, and they are great with helping out and figuring out whatever the right pathway for the person who's interested to get on board.
12 years ago, did you ever imagine this is where you would be?
No, never. I told you I began thinking I'm just a filler, my time gap till the time I find my next job. I could have never imagined this.
And what a huge endeavor to take on for yourself, and to build to such an important service. It comes down to that inflow and outflow again, and how you're affecting people. And so with the responsibility that comes along with that, so managing all of your teams and new concepts, how do you, Moni, take care of yourself? What's the self-care piece for you? Because we're talking about what you do for everybody else, but what I also want to focus on before we leave is to just, how does Moni take care of Moni?
Ah, wow, what a great question. Actually, it's a nice, so you're right. I mean, in my own personal journey of the self-discovery, I feel like I'm discovering myself. So, I kept thinking, hey, a title will make me happy. Once you give yourself a CEO
Mhm.
title, then what else can you do? This is it. So here you are. And then it was like, impact, how many lives am I touching? But in my own progression, I realized those two things are great, right? They kind of give you that fulfillment, at least in combination. But at the end of the day, it has to be you there. Are you happy, right? And this is where I had my biggest epiphany, Jane, is I always used to think, like most people do, right? That hey, if I just got my this job, or if I had my, if I'm married and I have a great life partner, if I have children and they grow up and I have a big house and blah blah blah, I'll be happy. I'll be happy. I'll be happy, right? And I realized that no, happiness is not a destination. Happiness is a choice that you can make each and every single day. And and that's when I realized my quest for happiness ended. It's not a search anymore. It's a choice I can make every single minute, every single day. And that really is the profound reality that I kind of realized in my life. And then I actually developed a hack. How do you hack happiness every single day? And if you're ready, I can offer it to.
We have to know this.
So first of all, I mean, it's very important that we have to really remember happiness is a tool we use to reach our destinations. It's not a destination itself. Okay, so that's number one. Now, how do you get happy? You get a healthy dose of happiness every day. And the dose is here. Here's the secret formula, okay? So, dose, DOSE. Okay, so that's basically happiness is all about, it's a cocktail of hormones that make us happy. Okay, and there's a very easy way to get all those hormones kind of going on. Okay, so D is dopamine. Dopamine is the reward chemical, and you get that when you achieve a goal, when you complete a little task, when you do something which is self-care. Maybe you went and did a manicure or something. That creates that dopamine. Okay, so for example, if you could have a simple task that you have a daily goal, things like, oh, I have to finish 3,000 steps every day. It's not a stretch goal, something you can get a check mark, like reasonably fairly easily, right? You have that as a goal every day and do that, and you have that dopamine hit. Okay, so that's number one. O is oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. So this is the hormone that kind of gets going when you're socializing, when you have physical touch, maybe you're petting animals, you're helping others, right? So there are many opportunities, like, even doing a work like I talked about, social entrepreneurship, where you're helping, impacting lives. That's one thing. And you have a partner, you have a child, you can hold their hands and just walk outside. That's a touch right there. Socializing. So lots of different ways to get your oxytocin going, right? S is serotonin. Serotonin is the mood stabilizer. It's a calming chemical, right? It kind of grounds you. And you get that by sun exposure, being in nature, being mindful, meditating. And so you kind of, again, just being outside for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, just go outside and kind of soak the nature in, and you get that serotonin going. And E is endorphin. Endorphin is a painkiller. So that you get by working out, exercising, watching a movie, listening to music. Nothing super, time consuming or anything. You can do whatever little thing. Now here's the best thing, right? When I talk with people, like, oh, that's going to take too much time. It's so many different things to do. How can I do it daily? I'm like, you know what? Here is a simple thing to think about, right? So for example, if you have a simple goal, as I said, set an achievable daily goal, right? For me, it's like 3,000 steps a day. I have to do, that's my minimum, right? So, okay, that's my goal. All I have to do is, okay, I set like 10, 15 minutes in the morning. I can go outside. So I'm in nature. I'm actually doing my jogging or whatever outside. I'm completing my steps. And while I'm doing that, if I'm able to, I'll talk with one of my relatives. I'll be on the phone and talking with somebody. So I'm getting my oxytocin going as well, the socializing part. And there you go with just one simple thing, right? 15 minutes outside, doing my jogging, I'm talking with somebody, I'm getting my dopamine because I'm completing a goal. I'm getting my oxytocin because I'm talking with somebody. I'm getting my serotonin because I'm out in nature. And I'm getting my endorphin because I'm actually exercising. There you go. You can do this every single day, whatever little things work for you. Like when I'm cooking, I may put my music on. You're listening to music. And now here, so you can do different things and kind of get those going. And it really, really helps you kind of keep yourself grounded, calm, happy, and your daily dose of happiness.
I love that. Love that. And as you're talking, I'm making notes. I know we talked about it before, but we didn't get so in depth in this. And so I'm just hoping I can read my notes when I'm done, because I'm scribbling them down. It's so important.
No worries. I can share. I mean, this is something, this I had to spend what 40 plus years to figure this out. But now that I figured it out, you can be happy. I mean, there's no reason not to be happy anymore. It's just so
And
crazy.
it's a choice. It's a choice.
It's a
I love
choice.
that.
Because I mean, things will keep changing. There's so much that keeps happening around you. We never control all
Mhm.
of that. There's nothing you can do about those things. You can do these little things and just, keep yourself.
Well, thank you, Moni. Thank you so much for your inspiration. Not only your inspiration on the dose of what we need to do, but your inspiration for what you're doing for kids and empowering educators along the way and giving them the tools to make such a difference, because our children are where we are going to be in the future, and how important it is to spend the time and the energy to develop them and get them interested in something other than staring at their phones. And just trying to trigger those interests and curiosities. So I so much appreciate that, and I thank you for sharing your story and your enthusiasm for what you do.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved this discussion, and thank you for having me here, Gian.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show is sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me, and if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.